Welcome to an epic workout. This is going to be on the theme of purposelessness and purpose. So if you have been struggling with purpose, this is for you. And if you've got the 28th gene key or gate defined for yourself, then this will be especially great for you. And if you don't have that, this might even be better for you, because how much wisdom have you actually cultivated so far about purpose? I'm Alex Iglesia, creator of the Epic Workout and Being Epic. And what we're going to do here is build the 28th hexagram line by line, movement by movement. And we do this so that we can build movement and mobility and exercise all around specific themes that you want to embody to help move your life and business and body forward. The second thing we'll do is some mobility, specifically today, shoulders and neck and core and hip flexion. Third, a little bit of exercise, 2 challenging moves that you can scale for the level of challenge and strength and conditioning that you want. And fourth, a deeper capacity building body-mind activation around the themes of purposelessness, totality, and immortality. So really purpose and legacy. Let's go. We'll start by building the 28th key or gate and hexagram using UZAZU, the mind-body method, by stepping back, up, wide to start with gateway. So the first trigram of yin, yang, yang is back, up, wide. By itself, this is a sense of self-esteem, a sense of attention over here on self, active, not passive, active, and reflective, not stuck inside something, but reflective from the outside. So in this place of being able to reflect on yourself, that's our foundation. From the foundation of, ideally, great self-esteem, we'll step forward, stay up and active, and come narrow. So there is a channeling of action, a channeling of energy and focus. The attention moves from self to other and world, and the width moves from reflective and external to active and internal. So we've got gateway, stepping forward to channel. Now you've got the mechanics for it. Let's smooth out the 2 movements. Back, up, and wide. Forward, narrow. Back and wide. Forward and narrow. Now exaggerate the movement just a little bit, just to see what is it like to go a little too far forward. When does your back and core and shoulder engage more? And step back and wide. And go a little bit too wide, and get just a little bit more self-centered, ignore the world for a moment, and then come out of that attention back into reaching just a little too far forward. We can get a lot of awareness by doing these movements in exaggerated ways. Where do we struggle? Where do we hold back? Especially with today's themes of purposelessness, of purpose and struggle, of totality and immortality, to go all the way big using gene keys. Okay, smooth out the movement a few times and find a sweet spot. Just a sense of you're getting there, you're hitting the right keynote, boom, and you come forward and you find a sweet spot, not too forward, not too back. Notice what parts of your body are being used to achieve these patterns. We've got shoulders, we've got core stability, we've got a little bit of hip flexion depending on how far forward you go. And that's why we're going to be focusing our mobility on shoulders, core, and hip flexion. Let it go. Shoulders, core, hip flexion. The movement we'll be using actually starts on the ground. Now I'll show it to you standing up, but then we'll take it to the ground. The movement is creating hip flexion with one leg, and then shoulder flexion, shoulder movement with the arms. Pretty simple. Now it's more challenging with your balance on standing, so we're going to take this to the ground. If you don't have a mat, that's fine. Use the floor, use a couch, use the bed, whatever you need. So start by laying down and bringing one leg up into hip flexion. Now it's going to stay there by its own power you'll leave it there. So you're constantly, gently activating all your hip flexors and your deeper hip flexors. Meanwhile, take your arms out, take them overhead, to full shoulder flexion. If that doesn't feel good, if you've got any pinching or limitation in your shoulder, keep it wider and keep it higher. So no pain. We're not going to practice through pain. From here, take your arms down and back up. So that's our first mobility, exploring your shoulder mobility and function here, and activating your hip flexion. This is part one. There'll be a part two in just a moment. Explore the space with your arms, create a bit more variety. You can move your arms any way you want, but see where your shoulders do move well while keeping a stable core and hip flexion, and where maybe there's some edges that you're going to need to do a bit more self-care with or get some outside support. Part two, take your knee, and while your arm's overhead, take the knee across your midline, across your center, and then wide. Across the center and wide. So playing just with the width of going from wide to narrow. If this is very challenging for your hips, make it a little smaller. We're about to be done. Switch legs. Hip flexion over time gets deeper and deeper into your psoas and frees up a lot of mobility for your spine. Arms go into shoulder flexion. There may be a bit of a difference when you've got a different activation through your core on the tightness and the lengths and mobility of your lats and shoulders. So, experience some curiosity here. Where do your shoulders go? Does this pattern feel more or less intelligent than the left side? Then pause with your arms overhead in a stable place and move your knee across the midline and wide. Back and forth, wide and narrow. Keep breathing. Anytime your breath stops, use that as a sign that it's a bit too challenging for your nervous system. Hug both your knees in, releasing that practice, and roll to their side or come up in a fancier way. See how you're feeling now. Now our second move is going to be using some similar patterns or structures in your body. We're going to have one leg forward. You pick either leg. We'll do both. Then reach the opposite arm out in front and take the leftover arm out behind you. Head stays forward. So we're rotating around a stable gaze. Reach arm forward and reach the other arm back. So we're creating width and narrow again, but playing with rotation, playing with your stability and your sense of balance. To make this more challenging, not that it needs to be more challenging as a mobility drill, lean more and more forward. The more forward you lean, the more your core needs to engage. So you're playing with mobility through stability, and the easier it will be as you go more vertical. Less and less core stability needed. Obviously, some. And then switch legs. You switch your legs, you change your hip position, you change the lengths of your lats and your intercostals and your pecs, and so now this could be different. So start slow. You also might have some scoliosis. I've got quite a bit of scoliosis through my spine and compensation over the years, and it's one of the big reasons that mobility is so important to me and what's important to share. But the reason I'm saying that is some of what you're feeling that's a difference could be how your structure is being held in place by your tissues and the tension. So we don't need to fix it or change it right now. The purpose here is to explore and free up the freedom, the range that you do have. As your body feels safe with it, it'll get stronger, faster. You can start to challenge it more and more and more. and let that go. Our exercise for today, there's 2 variations, and again, we're playing with a similar movement pattern. The first one starts by, and you could have a weight with this, some dumbbells or a kettlebell or a heavy dog or cat, but the movement pattern is to step wide, to reach up, almost like you're trying to put something up on a shelf and then come back. Now, the further out this goes, the more challenging it gets. So let's start it off, and we'll give it a minute after you get the move. You step wide, reach up, you almost come off the second foot and almost fully on the first foot. There's a reach, again, which could have dumbbells, and then you come back to center. Go to the same side, reach up and back, and back. So we're playing with width to a large degree while having our push, our effort be narrow. So there's a sense of focus, a sense of purpose, a sense of let's get that done, let's get that up there. Now this as a movement pattern is really, really great for your whole body. It's functional. And if you had a weight, if you had any unique weight, this is a mace, any weight we can put in our arms and start to create a lot more resistance. If you have a cable system, you can grab the cables from above, and this can be a pull down. So I just want to make the point that there's a ton of possibility in this movement pattern, depending on where the resistance is, or if it's just that your body's the resistance. Now, we're going to do 1 minute for each side. So get ready to begin with 1 minute. Here we go. Go one side and back. Get your breath working. And once you've got the movement pattern and you're breathing, and you feel inside, you feel confident with the movement, then you can make it bigger or go faster. So there's plenty of variation to challenge you in this move. Also, feel free to go slower and more controlled. And if you've got weights, you'll be going a little slower too. Pause, rest. We're about to do the other side. You may not have actually practiced that side yet. Give it a try. Step out, reach, and come back. Do it 2 more times to understand the pattern. And then prepare your weights, your cable, or just your body, and let's begin for 1 minute. Start off slow. Check out if this side feels more or less awkward, or more or less confident. Find your range of motion with it that feels like it's just your right edge. Make it your own. The purpose isn't cardio necessarily, or even strength. In this case, there's a whole totality. There's a lot going on. There's a giant impact that this movement pattern, with all its complexity, can offer you and make possible for your sports, for your confidence, for your friend, your friendship, but your friendship with your body. And let it go. Now, last exercise, before we get into our final capacity building deep integration, is essentially a downward dog. There's one variation though. The movement pattern is going to go from Downward dog, which has our arms in flexion, which is to say it's that channel posture. Bringing arms all the way back and wide, and even lifting everything off. So in gateway, we're in a sense doing a bit of spinal flexion and hip extension. We're going to exaggerate that on the ground. So this movement has a bit of variety because you can do a simple version and you can do a more challenging version. I'll show you both, and then we'll have 1 minute to make it your own. So simple version, you're coming down to the ground. Simple version is that you come forward and bring yourself down, gently lift everything off the ground, come back to the knees, tuck the toes, and find a variation of downward dog. That's the simple version. The more challenging version is on your toes, and there's a few other little tweaks you can make. So you start with downward dog, come strongly down, come up, potentially even reaching forward, hands back down, press all the way back and wide. And you can, of course, play with variations in the minute. So you have 1 minute now to practice that pattern with control, build your confidence, and being aware of the totality of your movement pattern. So go slow enough that you can stay aware of your whole body. If at any point you start to focus too much on one thing, you're too much on your breath or too much on your shoulders, slow it down, make it a bit easier, make it so that you are able to manage your awareness with the whole experience. Here we go, 1 minute. Rest. That's our minute. Well done. Come on, stand up and check out how your body feels. Look around your space. Notice how your awareness feels. Every time we do an epic workout around a hexagram, it'll affect your consciousness and awareness and your embodied experience differently. There's unique flavors. So one of the fun things is to keep noticing how we build these hexagrams and how that affects your consciousness and your awareness. For the last piece, we're going to be coming back to our gateway channel, to the core anatomy of the hexagram, but we'll bring in the themes of purposelessness, so the shadow stuff, the stuff that's, we tend to push aside and avoid, the totality, the sense of purposefulness outside of struggle, and immortality, which I'm going to invite you to hold it loosely as legacy, as impact, as, what is it really that it's about that you want to bring into the world through your struggle and your effort and your risk-taking. The last thing I want to share before we do it is to notice that what we're really saying here as an embodied story is, from self-esteem, we're coming into contribution. From a gentle sense of self, we're able to then come into the world with focus. So it's super basic, mechanical level. That's the embodied story that we're playing with. Now we've got the purposelessness. So anywhere that you've experienced purposelessness, we're going to touch on. Then totality, so how you come into form with all of you. And then that legacy, that immortality, that, you know, what is that impact because you were here? So we'll only spend about 3 minutes doing this deeper dive, but it's a fractal of what's possible if you spend more time with this particular pattern. So enjoy, and let me know afterwards what you experience and what opens for you in the next few days. Here we go. Stepping back to gateway and forward in channel. Saying hello first to totality and appreciating the totality of you and your contribution. Everything you think about for yourself and about yourself that has ever come into form. And where have you struggled with your purpose to bring something good into the world? As you do the movement, open your heart, open yourself to receiving and noticing the struggle, the purposelessness, and the pain. Notice how the movement changes or contracts for you, or shrinks, or however else it wants to express itself here. Be gentle with yourself and find more of the flow experience here. When we wake up to the pain of these movement patterns, one of the next opportunities is to gently iron out the wrinkles, to let go a bit more and more, to detach while at the same time embracing it. So as you have your attention more on the movement and you feel like there's a bit more flow happening, let's add in immortality, which can mean a lot of things. So first, what does immortality mean to you? And as you break it down, what do you mean to immortality? What does your contribution mean to immortality? And again, that can be challenging. Maybe it's too energized, or it brings up something interesting. So again, smooth out the movement, let your body lead more and more. If there's a different direction that you want to face, try that out. Last few moments here, making this your own. Let it be a little bit more and more and more dance-like, flow-like, less controlled by your mind, more synthesized by mind, body, spirit, soul, and heart. Find a comfortable, strong finish. We'll let it go. And neutral. Relax your arms. Gently bend your knees. Close your eyes for a moment. The experience will continue to evoke and expand you for the coming hours and days. For now, let's seal this practice. Bring a hand to your forehead, the other hand to the back of your head. Close your eyes and land this experience for yourself. Wherever your hands are, give yourself a loving, scrunchy, shaky massaginess for your head, your neck, and a little bit more speed Stomp, shake. Welcome back, fully here, a little bit new version of you. So welcome, not welcome, but thank you for experiencing some purpose in today's epic workout. I'll post other practices you can play with here. In the meantime, if you continue with today's practice for the next few days, you'll get more and more and more depth out of it and more insight. So I encourage you, 6 days is a great length of time to use this as a template for your exercise, your practice, and your daily personal development. If you have any questions, concerns, or you want to share some celebrations, send me an email at alex@alexiglesia.com and make sure to subscribe so you get future epic workouts. So thanks for being you, and thanks for being epic.